On the night of March 27, 1943, Oberfeldwebel Karl Weiss checked his altimeter as his He 111 droned steadily at 14,000 feet over the North Sea. The bomber formation had been airborne for nearly 2 hours. Engines humming in practiced rhythm, the coastline long vanished beneath black cloud and moonless sky. Below them, only darkness. Ahead, Britain. Weiss was 26 years old. This was his 9th bombing mission. He had learned to trust routine more than courage. The bomb load had been checked twice before takeoff for 250-kilogram bombs secured beneath the fuselage. Release mechanisms tested. Fuses armed only after crossing the coast. Everything had been normal until it was in T. At 180 hours, Weiss leaned forward to confirm bomb bay indicators. His breath caught. The gauges showed empty racks. No vibration, no explosion, no command had been given. The bombs were simply gone. He shouted over the intercom. The navigator checked again. The radio operator swore they had not released. Panic crept into voices, trained to stay calm. Losing bombs mid-flight was not just strange, it was dangerous. An accidental release could destroy friendly aircraft below. It could expose sabotage. It could mean mechanical failure that might kill them all. The pilot ordered silence. They scanned the instruments again. No warning lights. No structural damage. Just absence. Around them, other crews were discovering the same thing. Quiet confusion spread across the formation. No one wanted to be the first to admit what made no sense. The aircraft pressed on, now lighter, faster, and unnervingly clean beneath. Weiss stared into the dark where the bombs should have been. The war below continued unchanged, but something unseen had already altered their mission. As the engines carried them forward, one truth became clear in the frozen air of the cockpit. Something was happening in the sky that none of their training had prepared them for, and it would follow them into the deeper understanding of the war they thought they knew. By 1943, the air war over Europe had reached a dangerous intensity. German bomber crews flew long night missions across hostile skies, relying on instruments, discipline, and mechanical reliability more than visibility or instinct. Failures were expected, but unexplained ones were feared. Karl Weiss had grown up around machines. His father was a railway technician. He trusted engineering. That trust was being tested. Bombers like the He-111 and WW2 depended on complex bomb rack systems operated electrically or under ideal conditions. Releases were precise, but war rarely provided ideal conditions. Extreme cold, icing, vibration, and combat stress could affect even the most tested equipment. Yet, reports were emerging that could not be easily explained. Crews returned claiming bombs had vanished without command. Ground crews found racks open but undamaged. Some aircraft landed lighter than they should have been, fuel consumption lower than expected. Others discovered release switches untouched. Intelligence officers initially dismissed the claims as crew error. Stress, fatigue, and combat confusion could create false memories. But the pattern grew harder to ignore. Multiple squadrons, multiple aircraft types, different crews, same result. Weiss was questioned after landing. He answered carefully. He knew how such things sounded. Accidental release could mean court-martial. Sabotage could mean worse. Engineers examined his aircraft. They found no damage, no electrical short, no explosive residue. The bombs were simply gone. Some suggested icing had caused mechanical triggers to contract. Others whispered about defective fuses. A few spoke quietly of enemy interference, though no evidence supported it. For Weiss, the experience lingered. The idea that weapons could disappear without cause unsettled him more than flak ever had. At least flak followed rules. As missions continued, similar incidents were logged, often quietly. No official explanation was offered. Command preferred not to alarm crews already under strain. But among airmen, the stories spread. Bombs that vanished, loads that refused to drop or dropped too early. The sky, once a predictable battlefield, now felt uncertain. This growing unease followed Weiss into subsequent missions. shaping how we listen to engines, watch gauges, and question silence. And as the reports accumulated, they pushed the air war into a new psychological phase one, where even the weapons themselves could not be fully trusted. That uncertainty would soon transform caution into fear, and fear into something more dangerous, doubt. By mid-1943, the mystery could no longer be ignored. Aircraft returned again and again with missing or prematurely released bombs, sometimes over open water, sometimes over friendly territory. Each incident chipped away at confidence. Weiss noticed the change in briefings. Pilots asked more questions. Engineers stayed longer beneath aircraft. Orders emphasized checks already routine. Nothing reassured anyone. The transformation was subtle but profound. Crews flew with heightened tension, watching instruments more than every vibration felt suspicious. Every light meant danger. Some explanations slowly emerged. Later analysis would suggest multiple causes. Extreme cold affecting release mechanisms, electrical faults triggered by vibration, and aerodynamic forces at certain speeds causing unintended release. In some cases, pilots had likely mistaken emergency jettison levers under stress. But during the war, uncertainty ruled. Weiss flew another mission in July. This time, the bombs stayed. Relief felt unnatural. He realized how quickly trust had eroded. The war in the air was no longer just about targets and defenses. It was about belief that systems would function, that orders mattered, that control still existed. That belief had been shaken. By the end of the year, procedures changed. Safeties were redesigned, training adjusted. The mystery faded quietly, absorbed into the vast machinery of war. But for those who experienced it, the transformation remained. They had learned that even without enemy fire, the sky could betray you, and that knowledge followed them long after the engine stopped. By the autumn of 1943, the pattern could no longer be ignored. Bombs vanished without warning. Others refused to release entirely. Command did not announce a crisis, but orders changed quietly. Flight altitudes were adjusted. Release procedures were rewritten. Engineers were instructed to observe, not question. The silence itself became a signal. Carl Weiss sensed it during a briefing outside Bremen. A senior officer paused before speaking, choosing words carefully. There would be additional checks. Crews were to monitor release indicators continuously. Any irregularity was to be reported immediately upon landing. No mention was made of why. Inside maintenance hangars, conversations grew sharper. Engineers exchanged notes late at night. Some suspected sabotage. Others pointed to physics, extreme cold, high vibration, and rapid pressure changes combined in ways never fully tested before the war. Bombers were flying faster, higher, heavier than designers originally planned. Then an idea surfaced, quietly at first. What if the bombs were not malfunctioning randomly? What if they were being influenced by conditions created during flight? Aerodynamic pressure, resonance, electrical interference. Not enemy action, not human error, something invisible. The idea unsettled everyone who heard it. If true, it meant control was partially an illusion. The machine's crews trusted might behave differently depending on altitude, temperature, and speed. Warfare depended on predictability. This suggested the opposite. Weiss experienced the fear firsthand on a November mission. Halfway to the target, the aircraft lurched slightly. No alarm sounded. No indicator changed, but the weight felt different. Subtle. Almost imagined. The pilot asked for confirmation. Weiss checked the panel. All lights showed secured. He said nothing. There was nothing to say without proof. Command authorized limited in-flight tests. Bombers flew with inert payloads. Crews recorded vibration patterns, temperatures, electrical fluctuations. Some tests produced nothing. Others showed momentary release signals with no switch engagement. Evidence accumulated slowly, frustratingly. The impossible idea became unavoidable. Under specific conditions, the aircraft itself could trigger unintended bomb release. Pressure differentials, flexed mounting points, electrical circuits reacted unpredictably. No enemy action required. For the men in the air, the implication was terrifying. It meant safety depended not only on skill, but on factors beyond perception. Something could fail without warning, without blame, without sound. The climax approached quietly. There would be no single dramatic moment. Instead, realization spread through experience, report by report, flight by flight. The sky was not only hostile, it was unstable. And once that truth settled in, every mission became an act of calculated risk, balanced between duty and the knowledge that some dangers could not be seen at all. On December 5th, 1943, Weiss flew again, this time on a mission designed as both operation and observation. The aircraft carried mixed payloads. Engineers had modified release circuits slightly, adding redundant. No one said the word experiment, but everyone understood. The bomber climbed steadily through cloud. Temperatures dropped sharply. Frost traced the edges of the cockpit windows. Weiss watched the indicators constantly. His hand hovered near the intercom switch, ready to speak. At 2:11 hours, turbulence increased. The aircraft shuddered briefly. A light flickered. Not red, not green, just a blink. Weiss felt his pulse spike. He reported it immediately. The pilot reduced speed. The aircraft stabilized. The light remained steady. No bombs released. The mission continued. Later, as they approached the release point, Weiss followed procedure. He confirmed target alignment. He announced readiness. The pilot acknowledged. The release command was given. Nothing happened. Seconds stretched. Weiss rechecked the system. Circuits were live. Locks disengaged. Still nothing. The aircraft passed over the target carrying its full load. Anti-aircraft fire rose below, but the bomber remained intact, untouched. Only when they turned for home did the bombs release all at once. Far from any target, the aircraft jumped upward, suddenly lighter. Silence filled the cockpit. There was no celebration, no relief, only the awareness that control had slipped again. Upon landing, engineers surrounded the aircraft. Data was extracted. Panels were opened. No single failure explained the sequence. It was the interaction of conditions, not one broken part. Command issued new instructions within days. Release windows were tightened, altitudes restricted, procedures standardized across units. The changes reduced incidents significantly. But for those who experienced the failures, something permanent had shifted. The drama was not in explosions or heroics, it was in restraint, in pilots choosing not to release, in gunners watching lights instead of skies, in engineers fighting invisible variables. Weiss completed his missions without further incident, yet the tension never fully left. Every flight carried memory, the moment when nothing happened when it should have, and everything happened when it should not. The high drama of this chapter was quiet, technical, internal. No headlines recorded it, no medals marked it, but it shaped how aerial warfare was understood. War was not only fought against enemies, it was fought against limits, uncertainty, and the fragile boundary between control and chaos. By early 1944, the mystery of the disappearing bombs no longer dominated briefings, but its impact remained embedded in procedure. Official reports described the issue in technical language, mechanical irregularities under specific atmospheric conditions. The wording was precise, unemotional, and deliberately narrow, yet behind that language was a shift in understanding. Aircraft were no longer viewed as perfectly obedient machines. They were systems influenced by air pressure, temperature, vibration, and electrical behavior in ways not fully predictable under combat stress. New safety margins were introduced, bomb release mechanisms were redesigned with additional physical locks, electrical circuits were simplified, testing expanded beyond controlled environments into simulated extremes. These changes reduced incidents sharply, though they never eliminated risk entirely. For historians, this episode illustrates something often overlooked. War accelerates technology faster than understanding. Machines are pushed beyond their original limits, and human beings must adapt in real time, sometimes discovering flaws only after lives are already at risk. The missing bombs did not alter the outcome of the war on their own. They did not decide battles or change borders, but they influenced how air forces approached reliability, redundancy, and crew safety for decades afterward. Modern aviation safety culture traces part of its caution to wartime lessons like this one. The men involved rarely spoke publicly about it. There was no advantage in revisiting moments when control slipped. Most simply carried on, logged their flights, and tried to trust revised systems. Carl Weiss survived the war. His name appears in no famous accounts. He was neither hero nor villain. He was a technician in the air, doing his duty while learning that certainty was fragile. The historical significance lies not in spectacle, but in humility. This episode reminds us that even the most advanced tools can behave unexpectedly, and that survival sometimes depends on acknowledging what is not fully understood. And from that realization, quieter, safer systems slowly emerged. Years later, Weiss struggled to explain the feeling to his son. Not fear, exactly. Not bravery either. It was responsibility mixed with uncertainty, the knowledge that pressing the switch might do nothing, or might do too much. He remembered staring at indicator lights longer than he ever watched enemy skies, remembered the weight of bombs still attached when they should have fallen, and the sudden lightness when they released far too late. In civilian life, people asked about combat, about danger, about courage. He spoke instead about machines, about how small forces could combine into big consequences, about how people learned slowly to respect complexity. The legacy of that lesson lives quietly in modern aviation, in redundant systems, in checklists, in the assumption that failure is always possible even when everything appears normal. War history often focuses on victories and defeats, but beneath those headlines are moments like this, where progress came not from triumph, but from near failure. From pilots returning with unanswered questions, from engineers admitting uncertainty. This human note matters because it strips war of myth. It shows that behind every operation were individuals confronting imperfect knowledge, doing their best with tools that sometimes betrayed expectations. Weiss never considered himself important, but his experience, shared through reports and memory, contributed to safer skies long after the war ended. And that may be the quietest form of legacy, not remembered by name, but felt through absence, through accidents that never happened, through systems that held when they might have failed. History is not only what explodes, it is also what nearly does and then does not. This is the history of World War II. Whoever oppresses the innocent is an oppressor. Neither the earth belongs to this oppressor, nor does the sky belong to him. We stand now and forever with the oppressed. This is WW2 Files. See you in the next one.